Hello friends, welcome back to fourth session of AWS networking. In this session, we are going to cover the security group. Okay, so far in the previous sessions, we have covered the AWS VPC, Internet Gateway, NAT Gateway, and then subnet, public and private subnet. Right. So now in this session specifically, we are going to cover the security groups. Okay. So before that, I will draw the architecture of the component that we have covered so far quickly. Okay. And then I will explain you what exactly are the security groups. Right. So now what we have learned so far about the first is the VPC point. VPC, which is the first thing that we create in the AWS. Right. So now, for example, this is our VPC, which is our private isolated data center, right? So because we have a multiple customers in the cloud, so every client has to be isolated from each other so that there is no conflictions of the resources between the different clients, right? So for that we create a VPC, which is a virtual private cloud. So every client will get own private network with the help of VPC, right? Because as I said, we have a multiple clients in the cloud data center, so every client has to be separated or isolated. So the VPC is very first thing that we create, right? And after that, if you want to access your applications from the internet, okay, or maybe from the which is also called the public network, okay, so the traffic has to reach to your resources which is inside your VPC, right? Suppose this is your AWS, this is your AWS account, and inside your account you have created the VPC and all of the resources inside the VPC, right? Now if any of the client wanted to access any of the application which is inside your VPC, so for that what we have learned, you need the internet gateway. So this is the one component that you need to configure, internet gateway, right? And with the help of internet gateway, the second basic component that we have inside our VPC are the subnets. This is subnet 1 and this is subnet 2, right? Now suppose that this is our public subnet and this is our private subnet, right? So this we have covered in the previous session, what is public subnet and what is private subnet. So nothing but public, where we have our web applications are deployed or maybe the web servers are running. Private, where our business logics are running or our data exists, right? For example, my application servers, my database are within the private subnet, right? Subnets are the logical separation of my complete network, right? So now from the request from internet gateway will reach to your subnet, public subnet, and from public subnet it can forward it to the private subnet. Okay, so you will not have any kind of interaction directly to your private subnet because you have code is there, your business logic is there, your organization data is there. So generally to private subnet we do not expose from the outer world. So the request will always come to your public subnet, and from public subnet it will be forwarded to our private subnet, right? For example, our web server is running here and our application server is here and our database is here, maybe in some different virtual machines are running. So request will reach to web server and web server will act as a reverse proxy and it will forward to our application server or maybe the database, right? So now what is happening here, and apart from that what we have learned, one more component, the NAT gateway, right? So suppose that if any of your application inside the private subnet need to contact the internet for any kind of updates, so for that we have a NAT gateway. So this NAT gateway specifically for the private subnet. So the application can reach to NAT gateway. NAT gateway will has to configure with the internet gateway, and then it can reach to the internet. And this traffic is only one direction, in the one direction, from inside to outside. Right? This is the NAT gateway, which is specifically for the private subnets. Now, in all those is the complete architecture. What is happening? The data is flowing. Right? This is your internet public network. From there, it is reaching to your VPC. Then from VPC, it is reaching to your internet gateway, right? From internet gateway it is reaching to your subnets, and from subnets it is reaching to your resources, for example virtual machines that we have inside the subnets, right? So cloud is a very you can say is a very secure solution for your applications. Okay, so you have a multiple security layers and each and every level. Okay, that means once the traffic is reaching to your VPC, so this is your VPC, right? So the first entry point in your private cloud is your VPC. So there would be a firewall like configuration or the filtration at the firewall level. Once from the VPC, it is reaching to your internet gateway, and then from internet gateway, it is reaching to your subnet. So there would be restrictions at this subnet level as well once it is passed from the VPC. And third, when it is entering your subnet, inside the subnet, you have the multiple resources like the EC2 virtual machines. So you have the third layer at the virtual machine level as well. So that means you can restrict the traffic which is coming to your resources at even at the instance level. For example, you can restrict the traffic at the EC2 instance machine level, which is running inside a particular subnet, right? And you can restrict the traffic at your subnet level as well. So this is your subnet. You can restrict at the subnet level as well, and even you can restrict at the VPC level. So there are the multiple layers where you can restrict the traffic for the security reasons, right? And we have some different kind of a configurations for these kind of a restrictions. If you would like to restrict at the your instance level, there is a separate terms for that one. If you would like to restrict at the subnet level, if you would like to restrict at the VPC level, so for that we have a route table. So this we are going to cover in the subsequent sessions. Okay, route tables. And then when we move from route table to inside, then we have NACL, network access list. Okay, and apart from that, we have security groups. So these are the three important network configurations that specifically deal with the restrictions of the traffic which is coming in and out from the internet to your VPC, or maybe out going from VPC to your outside. Okay, so these route table and network access list and security groups secure the communication within your VPC, or you can say within your private cloud. So in this session, we are going to discuss on the security groups. So NACL and route table will cover in the next sessions. So now what is security group? So let me quickly redraw the figure and tell you. Okay, so this is my VPC. Okay, inside that I have internet gateway, which is allowing the traffic from the outside, and then we have the subnet here. Okay, now suppose that inside the subnet I have two virtual machines here, VM1, VM2, and similarly I have the VM1 here and VM2. So security group we can configure at the instance level which is there inside a particular subnet. Okay, so that means you can restrict the traffic which is coming in and going out from your instances, right? I'm repeating again, security group is to restrict the traffic at the instance level or the virtual machines which is running inside your subnet, right? So now how we defined it? So we have the option to create the security groups, and that security group once it's created, we attach it to the virtual machines. Okay, so when you do not create a security group, then AWS networking will automatically create a default security groups for you. Okay, so how we control the traffic? We control the traffic for a particular CIDR range or IP ranges, or for a particular IP as well. Okay, or it could be a security group level as well. Okay, so let me simplify it, what I am talking about now. So I will take the example of one of the virtual machine. Okay, for example, this is my virtual machine. Okay, and this is running inside some subnet. So this is my subnet, and I have multiple virtual machines. Okay, so I am talking about one of the virtual machines. So for this, I have created a security group and I have attached to my virtual machine. Okay, so now if any traffic is coming from the outside, okay, to my VPC using the internet gateway, okay, suppose it is trying to enter my virtual machine. Okay, so I can allow or disallow the traffic based on the multiple conditions. For example, I can disallow the traffic, or I can allow the traffic which is coming from a specific IP address on a specific port on a specific protocol. Okay, so this IP and port you can define as a specific destination, like you can allow the traffic from some CIDR. So CIDR is nothing but it is a grouping of the multiple IP addresses. Okay, and you can allow or disallow the traffic from security groups as well. Okay, for example, I have one security group here and a second security group there, which is for virtual machine 2. So if you would like to allow the communication these two virtual machines, so you can allow the source and destination as security group as well. Okay, now suppose that one of the client is trying to access your application from the outside with the IP address of 192.168.10.6. Okay, and this client is trying to access the port number 7001. So now suppose that this is a virtual machine where some of the services are running on port 001. Now this user from the outer world with this particular IP trying to access your particular application which is running on port 7001, right? So now if you would like to restrict the traffic at this security group level, okay, or you would like to allow it, so you can use the IP addresses, port, protocols. Now suppose that the user is trying to SSH to your machine, virtual machine, okay, or maybe it is trying to access some web application which access with the help of HTTPS protocol, or maybe there is a call for TCP protocol, right? So what you can do, you can allow or disallow to a particular specific IP, or maybe the CIDR range, or maybe at a specific port, or at a specific protocol. So as I said, maybe SSH, HTTP. Okay, so you will get an option once you are going to configure the security groups. Here you can specify the destination IP address, or what is the destination, then the port, then the protocol. Okay, so these are the information that you will get, and there you can configure these kind of a restriction. So now what we learn about the security group, it is used to restrict the traffic at the instance level which is running inside your security group, sorry, in your subnet, right? So now for allowing the traffic, we have a two kind of a rule which is called inbound and outbound. Okay, so when you will configure it in the AWS console, you will get the two sections, different sections. One is to allow the inbound and second to allow the outbound. It's very simple. The traffic which is coming to your virtual machine, this is my virtual machine. The traffic which is coming to my virtual machine from the outer world called the inbound. Okay, now suppose you want to allow the traffic from some IP address on port 7001. So you can specify this one, allow for IP address and on this port. Now outbound is where the traffic can go from this particular virtual machine. Okay, suppose that this virtual machine need to access one of the API which is running on some cloud or somewhere in external on-premise system. So you can allow that from this virtual machine, you are allowing the traffic can go to this particular IP address and this particular port, right? So simple. Inbound is to allowing the traffic inside your virtual machine, and outbound is allowing the traffic can go out from your virtual machine, okay, to the outer world. This is inbound and outbound, and these kind of restrictions we can define inbound and outbound with the help of security groups, right? So in a nutshell, what we have learned here, apart from the revision of the basic component that we have covered in the previous sessions, we have learned the security group. And what we have learned about the security group make the restrictions at the instance level. What else apart from that one? I said you can restrict the traffic at the VPC level. You can restrict the traffic at the subnet level as well. Okay, and third layer is the instance level, which we have covered here with the help of security groups. And in this security groups, we have a inbound and outbound. So this is my virtual machine. So inbound means I am allowing the traffic to my virtual machine, and outbound means we are allowing the traffic wherever can go from this particular virtual machine. Okay, so this is all about your security groups. Thank you.